Yeah, okay. So the question is, what are the size of the embeddings?
Of course, that's not.
No, that's absolutely not. So for Dr. we found out that big vectors are not performing well on our tasks. So we wanted to push it to around 300 sized vectors, but those just performed poorly. So we ended up using, I think, 80 dimensions, just because those performed the best. And also, the longer we trained, the worse it performed. And that was mind-blowing to us. But we know about overfitting, but how much can you overfit? So Dr. was below 100. The central transformers, the one that we chose is 384. The rest are 768. And the glove embeddings are 300. Any other questions? Some fellow on the YouTube stream having a question? No? Okay. All right, folks. Then let's enjoy.
About the apps which you mentioned, these three apps for the visualization, were they, because of someone who needs to validate the results, or it was only, I'm just wondering what was the reason?
Okay, so the question was, what was the reason of creating those three apps that we mentioned? So it was multiple reasons. First of all, they were extremely easy to build. Streamlit, you add 4 lines of code to what you already have, and you have an app. So it didn't cost us a lot of time and efforts to actually build them because of Streamlit. And the reason why we had them is it adds an element of interactivity that you can play without changing your code too much. So you can switch between models and a number of topics, and you can see results. Otherwise, you need a notebook, but that was just easier. And the third reason was for stakeholders, they were cooler. Like, we needed to present to a director interim results, and the options were either present a Streamlit app or present a notebook. And the director could play with the Streamlit app more easily than with the notebook. And that sometimes makes a difference. And especially because Streamlit is so easy to write. Like, if I show you the code for that app, it's just the usual word topic code sprinkled with 4 or 5 lines of Streamlit code, and you're done. You run the Streamlit run command, and you have an app going on. So it's very cheap, and at the same time it has an effect, and it's also kind of occasionally good to not work in a notebook, but kind of in an environment like that. But thank you. Yes, please.
You said some good words about English. Why did you choose to do it in Python?
Okay, so the question is, why did we choose to do it in Python rather than in R? Well, I really enjoy working in R, but the NLP tools in R are lagging behind the ones in Python by a couple of years. So I love R, but if I work, my recommendation for anything NLP is Python for now. R folks are trying to catch up, so you never know. And with all the transfer learning going on in NLP nowadays, if you're calling Hugging Face and just downloading a pre-trained model and you haven't the same in R, the difference is not going to be huge, but for now, Python is much more developed. Yeah.
Did you try to play with the other metadata which you have? For instance, you mentioned that a part of the text you have a very good, title. I guess there are some topics. So was that the logic which you test the results, or you have that information, you have someone who annotate all of your articles?
Okay. So the question is if we have utilized our metadata for the articles we're producing the embeddings. So I failed to mention that all the algorithms we trained or evaluated on a concatenation of title, subtitle, and then body. So we started with the title and the subtitle just because they are a great summary of the article. And it solved our problem with the transformers not being able to handle the whole text to an extent. There are other types of metadata that we would like to utilize. For example, we haven't mapped in any way the time that the article was published. So if an article is now published 1.5 years ago and today, it kind of makes sense to have the today's article kind of closer in any search application if you come to that. Or we have tags for articles potentially utilized. So there's more work to be done, and work is ongoing. We are working right now on all downstreams effects, so we might also use the metadata at some point in time.
And something else about the topics. How you define the number of topics? Because sometimes it's better without playing with the predefined numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So the question is, how do we define a number of topics? Well, it's a great question. We kind of know that based on our journalist experts, we kind of know a reasonable number of overall topics on which the FT publishes. But there's no guarantee that they make sense. And you have different clustering algorithms, some that are more actually a partitioning algorithm where you have it, give me 40 topics, give me 40 clusters, it will spit out 40 clusters. But the HDB scan type of things used by per topic, you don't specify number of topics. We let the algorithm kind of spit out the number of topics and also number of outliers. So, and then you can hierarchical cluster your way into 40 topics if you like. So to answer the question directly, we kind of knew what a reasonable number of topics is, but we didn't feel really comfortable pushing the algorithms to say, all right, that's the right number. If you don't score well on 40 topics, we say you're bad. We tried with less and with more to see how algorithms perform and compare the results. I didn't report on that, but on clustering, we kind of had many different parameters. We did a parameter search and we compared the results and see if there is some logic behind all of that.
I can change the question. When we talk about topics in defining topics, what was the final task? Because is the task make 20 topics and put them in 20 topics and we will do the rest of the content? Or there is something like similarity which needs to be done and some other stuff for the recommendation or that? But sometimes make topics redundant based on the task which you are trying to solve.
Yeah. Okay. So kind of a follow-up question was, what do we do? Like, if I understand it properly, what's the downstream effects of it? So there are a number of effects, and most of them are kind of related to clustering. Like, we have a metric that we value a lot called breadth of readership or breadth of reading that measures how broadly a different readers read. Like if somebody reads only on finance, or somebody reads on art and finance and politics and energy. And for that to work properly, you need a good distribution of embeddings. So it needs to be as broad as possible, which is very related to clustering. So it's the logic there is the distances need to make sense, but there's no topics there. It's just a matrix in this case. Our next one is a clustering algorithm. And there we have topics. But the reason why we have topics is mainly for internal stakeholders. So nobody actually uses the topic description, but we need topics so that internally people understand, okay, that cluster is about topic A, that one is about topic B. But the way we actually use the clusters is not based on the name of the topic, it's just a cluster. But there we have a fixed number right now. We say, like, please give us 40 to 50 topics max. And please don't give us 500 because we don't know what to do with them. And so goes for our article recommendation right now. So the way we recommend right now to an extent is a topic from the cluster you read, but also a topic from a cluster that we think might be interesting to you. So we kind of use the previous method. So it's a mixed bag, but we're not extremely happy with the clustering. So we evaluating now the downstream effects. We might think of other ways to kind of relax the constraints a little bit. That's ongoing. So any talk on that subject, probably half a year. So. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you for spending this evening with me and coming to the FT office, and for anybody listening out there. We finished in time for the semifinals, so that's great as well. There's some food out there, so help yourself and have a nice evening for myself.